know what I'm saying, that I was really trying to process. You know what I mean? You can't force people to value you, and you can't hope that they're going to value you. You know what I mean? You have to value yourself before anything. You know what I'm saying? It was that process that had me start to love myself gently. You know what I'm saying? And once I started to love myself gently, I started to realize how I wasn't loving other people gently. I was loving them hard with expectations and, you know, I'm going to love you so much so you stay here. You know what I mean? That's suffocating. And I didn't realize that, you know. So the breaking point was absolutely that relationship, no question.
Now, how comfortable, right? Because you kind of give us the idea, right, that something happened in this relationship. How comfortable are you with revealing what happened?
That's cool, man. I mean, it's a really freeing place to be in this space where I could be healed, you know, and talk about it without having this still a feeling of resentment or bias, you know, confirmation bias, you know. But yeah, for me, what happened in that relationship was I dealt a lot with emotional abandonment, a lot. And this is, I'm talking about from my childhood. And in this relationship, this individual was a track star. You know, I don't know if you know that song, Track Star.
She's a runner. She's a track star.
Yeah,
she gonna run away when it gets hard.
You know, this was her pattern. And we all have our patterns, you know. I mean, again, mine was the fact that even having the relationship was fulfilling my void, which already was unhealthy. You know what I'm saying? But this is what she did. And I made room for that a lot because I didn't understand my value. And this relationship was what showed me that to me. So as long as this relationship is here, this is somehow fulfilling that void. And I left room for this person to repeatedly, abruptly just leave. You know, conflict would come home, places wiped out. You know, what was especially difficult was my daughter was involved because I don't have much family. You know what I mean? My family's very small. I mean, it's my sisters, myself, my mother, my father, if he is still around, you know, and then my 2 nephews. And that's it, you know. So building a family was important. And at that time, you know, to the way that I saw it. And so my daughter really got affected as well because she got very close to this person. And at one point, my daughter was really excited because she's like, man, we're building a family. We're bringing it together because, like, I was close to her family. And you know, the abrupt leaving just kind of left a stain where even my daughter was like, again, you know, and that killed me, you know. Like,
so this is repetitive.
Oh, yeah. You know, I left room for that probably about 4 times. And then even after. But it was how much I felt empty after that I knew something was wrong. Like, you've never been like this. You've been able to find a way to bounce back and transform and evolve. But here, I couldn't move. I couldn't find no thing to do. There was no thing to get me right. It was just, you got to sit still. You got to sit with this and sit with this pain and see what's really going on here. You got to lean into these shadows. And that's where my shadow work came in at. That's where my inner child work came in at. And I started to really understand, oh, I wasn't loving myself at all. And I left room for that, you know, over and over. Had I loved myself, I could have caught that probably before it even happened, you know what I mean? But in the relationship, that's what it was. It was the repetitive abandonment that kept happening.
Now, in the past, you talked about how you would fill that void with drugs or sex or more relationships because this was later in your life, right? And it sounds like you were really understanding. Did you kind of take on, you know, after that 4th or 5th disappearing act, did you step into the world of vices, or was your response this time different than you normally would have responded?
I couldn't. Nah. I was in front of the water, bro. Yeah. Like, I was in front of the water, bro, every day, meditating, praying, sometimes just being there. And like, I was like, man, something's really going on with me, because I wasn't crying. I mean, it's not like I have a problem with crying, but I was crying a lot, like out of nowhere. You know what I'm saying? Really, as if I couldn't get past this. And I think I had a dark night of the soul, where there was one time, this is probably February 2019, and I was doing some schoolwork, and all of a sudden the room got dark, and I started to see this vision of me 20, 30 years from now, like pretty much, man, like about to commit suicide. You know what I'm saying? Like that's what the feeling was. I couldn't move. I was cold. It was an unexplainable feeling. I couldn't even pick up the phone and call nobody. It was this vision that I had, and it really shook me. It really shook me, because it let me, like, I for the first time I saw fear of what my life is gonna be. You know what I'm saying? And I think that made me grip harder onto a relationship that wasn't good for me, because I was fearful of what I would do by myself. You know what I'm saying? It was a really strange feeling for me that I never had before, even in a relationship. You know what I'm saying? And then it was probably about after the last breakup, I couldn't do anything. I couldn't go into no vices. I was all about, I need to sit with this pain, and that was it. You know, I just had to sit with it and let it and find stillness in it.
Describe your spirit at that time. What was the
time when I
condition of
had
your spirit like?
That dark night of the soul spirit?
During that whole time after she left, right? After the relationship was officially over.
During that whole time, bro, I almost felt like I did always see possibility.
I know for sure that during that time you were having to teach possibility thinking to you.
Yes. And I didn't see it. I didn't even, this is the first time that I'm actually feeling what it's like to live life as a healed man, as a whole man, with a healed inner child. You know what I'm saying? At that time, I didn't see possibility. And that's what was scary to me. You know what I'm saying? That's what was scary. And then I had people that I leaned on who even they kind of like, some people would shame me, bro. Like I didn't even feel some people weren't good to go to. You know what I'm saying? And that was even worse. It made me feel like, you know what, I just need to stay right here by myself, which I did. I needed to stay in that place by myself and just dig. You know what I'm saying? That's where I started therapy. You know what I mean? I started therapy, but I'm gonna be real with you. Therapy is not the only thing. Like therapy is great. I love it. I think everybody should at least try to find a therapist, but there's other modalities that we need to be able to focus on. There's whole transformation that has to take place. There's things with the body, because with trauma, that's in our emotional body, that's in our pain body, that's in our physical body, that's so there's a lot of areas we have to be able to heal and cultivate and develop when we talk about healing. And that's what I needed. I needed to go into my bag of personal development tricks and be like, all right, we're going to set everything up. Everything starts over. Like, what does it look like if my higher self comes out and lives this life? What does it look like if my inner child is healed? What does that look like? How do I live when I do that? I haven't seen that yet.
Retweet that. What does it look like if my higher self comes out?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And lives. Because I hadn't seen that yet, bro. I hadn't seen that yet. This whole time, all this development I've been doing, all these years, and I still haven't seen the true potential come out, because that child wasn't healed. That void wasn't filled.
So now, right, you naturally went into it, which is dope, right? You naturally went into it. You've mentioned practices.
Yeah.
But what was the transitional point for you? Like what was the moment, or what was the piece of knowledge, or what was the piece of information that inspired you? And I'm being specific about that because I know, and we know this, that a lot of those transitions or those transformations, they happen with a piece of inspiration. It hits you, and then you start to move, and then that gives you the curiosity for your search to start to find out
Oh,
the other
man.
things that you want to put. But what was the thing that hit for you? What was the moment?
I gotta shout this woman out. I love her. I love her. If y'all don't know her, you need to go see her. Go check her out. She's very popular for her lifestyle choices, but she changed my life. And it's Kenya Stevens. She was basically my therapist, you know. No, she was not teaching me polyamory. That's what everybody asks, right? But what she did do, she had this ceremony called the lacing. And in this lacing, it was a ceremony where I go into my imagination and I basically go into my subconscious, and she brought me into this world of my subconscious where everybody who's been in my life was there to greet me, right? And I had this wand, this crystal wand. This wand, I could do whatever I want with this wand in this imagination world. I could do whatever I want. And she stressed the fact that in this world, this is all real world. Everything we see isn't really the real world. We think it is, but the imagination is where everything comes from. So this is the real world. And that was important for me to understand. And so as I went into this experience, I had my wand. I see my mother. I see my father, my sisters, my exes. And my father was taken by the ancestors and trained and taught how to love. And I directed them to do that. Then I directed the ancestors to teach my mother and my sisters. And then I dwindled down from my grown self down to a seed. And then the seed was put back into my mother. And my father worshipped my mother, who was about to give birth to the new higher self me, the new healed me. And when I came forth as the new healed me, this new higher self, I went into every part of the areas of my childhood, even in my own room where I was as a little boy, and hugged him. I went into where we would argue and the physical abuse would take place. And I sat them down and let them know, y'all gonna learn how to communicate. Y'all gonna learn these tools of how to love. You know what I'm saying? This wasn't for them to serve me of an ego place. This was really healing me and fulfilling things that I needed to get fulfilled about myself. It wasn't about my father getting trained necessarily. It was about me getting trained, me getting the tools. This experience was that was the catalyst. From
Oh,
there on,
this is fucking dope. I'm sitting like, what the fuck? Like,
from there on, I was like, yo, okay, we about to get to work. And then it just so happens around that time, my mentor, who I met this is when I first started Qi Kung in my early 20s. My mentor happened to get in contact with me after 10 years that we haven't spoken. And when I tell you he changed my life in that day, that's a whole other story, but he got in contact with me. So the fact that I had this experience and I link up with him and we like, yo, we about to make this happen. Meaning like, we're about to see what it's like when my best self is living.
Yo, that's incredibly powerful, man.
Yeah, man.
Damn, I'm trying to go into my subconscious and
Bro, Kenya Stevens, man. Y'all go check out Kenya Stevens.
This is a one-on-one session you had with Kenya, or this just some stuff you was watching?
This is one-on-one. We did. And it's funny because I came to her like, yo, like I'm heartbroken, you know, and you know, woe is me. And it was like, bro, it's all about you. You the one, like this is you. There's no blame, no shame on anybody else. When you start to get to a place of healing and you start to get to a place where, you know, you're living from higher self, you don't have no blame or shame on nobody. You don't have no victim, no villain, you know. But if I'm showing up with the victim, the villain, or the blame or the shame, I'm in my human experience right now. So she showed me the difference between where my human experience is coming out and when my God mind is speaking.
Then you can really be like, peace, God.
Peace, God. Yeah, no doubt.
And be at a whole nother level of it.
Right.
You know, my brother told me something one time that makes me resonate with your story, man. He told me, he said, man, I want to tell you something. He said, because you're my brother and I know how you think, I feel like you'll be able to understand this. But he said, I wouldn't say this to everybody. And he said, think about all of the things that you might have wanted to do, but felt limited or felt like you couldn't.
Mm.
And then he said, now imagine you were God.
Mm.
If you were God, what would be stopping you from doing whatever you wanted to do? And when I really thought about that, when I really sat and thought about that, the moment I allowed myself to believe, right, that I was God, I literally felt a weight jump off of me. And then he said, now imagine you were God.
Mm.
If you were God, what would be stopping you from doing whatever you wanted to do? And when I really thought about that, when I really sat and thought about that, the moment I allowed myself to believe, right, that I was God, I literally felt a weight jump off of me. I felt like everything was possible.
That's it.
And then what he said to me after that, he said, that's how I live my life every day. All right, this is the type of tutelage I had too, you know what I mean? That's how I
Yeah.
live my life every day. He said, like, I'm God. And of course, he's like, some people are going to think that's blasphemy. He's like, but you understand, like, the context of it is that God is here.
That's right.
So if God is here, and if I acknowledge God is here, then I move. And he said, I move as if I speak things into it. When I speak, I actually know I'm creating.
That's it.
Right.
It's not even, I mean, Jesus himself said, ye are God's children of the Most High. Jesus himself was Jesus with Christ consciousness. He evolved to that. You know what I'm saying? He wasn't already knowing what was in him, and he was telling everybody else to do the same thing. That's why he was flipping over the tables. You don't need to go to the priest. It's in you. And the priest are like, yo, you're messing up our money, Jesus.
These things I do, ye can do also by the power that is within me is also within you.
That's it. There's countless scriptures to show us that we are right. We have the reflection of God right in us, you know, but the human experience puts all these layers on our soul. And it really becomes a process in life where we're now navigating through this world, pulling those layers back so our soul could reflect God here on earth, you know.
Just because I seen it already, right? So I seen it, I just saw it. That's what we're gonna do. We're gonna continue to progress through this conversation. But I'm gonna go ahead and put this out there. Y'all, if anybody has questions for him, for us, whatever it is, go ahead and start putting those questions in the little question mark down low. When we finish the normal process, we'll come to those questions. We're gonna have time. And I think we're supposed to have time. From what I saw, we're supposed to have time. Because I'm looking at the time and I'm like, we're early, but we good.
Okay.
So you told us about your transition, right? You got a visit from your old I don't know what you would call them,
Mentor,
but
yeah.
mentor in a sense. You talk to Kenya. You're able to go into your subconscious and heal the wounds within your subconscious. How are you maintaining now? And I know from conversations with you, especially on Black Men Healing, you're walking, right? Your power, your energy is different, right? You're at a crowning point of your life, of your kingdom. You know what I mean? What does your daily process look like for maintaining the energy of your internal self, your higher self?
Yeah. So one practice is semen retention. That's really huge. You know what I'm saying? Actually, I practiced it before. I got back on it through the Clubhouse group. First room I went in on the Black Men Healing group, y'all brought semen retention back into my consciousness, and I'm like, you know what? Yeah.
Now break that down for some people.
So
I
semen
think you and
retention.
I was talking about that. I think, and people,
What's that?
I think you and I might have been talking about that, or somebody was talking. I remember that conversation though. Break that down for somebody who might not be clear on it.
So semen retention, that's essentially abstaining from sex or sexual activity, but not necessarily. I mean, you can have sex if you want, but you need to conserve the semen, you know. But it's basically transmuting that sexual energy. You know, it's not necessarily just about the semen, but it's transmuting the sexual energy and putting it more into what the ancient Taoists believe, which is what I normally practice in Taoism. they believe that it sharpens the pineal gland. You know, it starts to stimulate it and starts to make you even sharper in your mind. But physically, it also has the benefits of, you know, your blood flow. And when you want to talk about manifesting, your visualization is off the chains when it comes to semen retention, because you're taking that sexual energy, you're transmuting it into somewhere, right? So if you're working out and you're taking that sexual energy and you're breathing and you're working out, that's going in, that's where that sexual energy is going to. It's the same thing if you're visualizing. If your consciousness is going to put something out and visualizing, you're trying to manifest something daily, that sexual energy, when you take that, transmute that, you breathe, you go through breathing exercises, you transmute that into your visualization, it makes it that much more profound. Your creativity is on a whole other level when you practice semen retention, on a whole other level. Because again, you're transmuting that energy into all these different areas of your life, physical, spiritual, even emotional. So that has been a huge, you know, plus for me. And aside from that, my daily routine, for me to maintain this, you know, and even evolve more and transcend more, the first thing, you know, in the morning time, it's like that first hour, I got to have as many wins as possible. Small wins get big gains. So in that first hour, what are the main things I can do that just check it off the list? I always have a list that I do to check off, because getting something done within that first hour, and then going to check it off, the connection between the mind and body of just doing that, you feel so empowered already in the beginning of your day. You know what I'm saying? So drink a half a bottle of water, make the bed, you know what I'm saying? You wash your face, get my daughter ready. All those things are my wins in my first hour. I'm on it. This practice started to make me even feel like, yo, this is your higher self showing up. You know what I'm saying? It might not be major at that point, but when you talk about at the lowness of where I was, how low I was, every single small step mattered. Every single small step mattered of what I can get done and complete and check off the list. So this practice started becoming more extensive. So it's like now my morning is more like 3 hours. Morning is more like 3 hours. You know what I'm saying? Where I have an hour of meditation, something that I call portal journal. I go into my imagination, like everything that's happening in my life right now. It started in that portal journal. I started in June, where in June, I started literally just closing my eyes and feeling everything I wanted to see and feel. When I first started my journal, it wasn't about, oh, I want money. It wasn't about, I want to get my money back up, or I want this car or whatever. It was, I want more. I want to be more loving. I want to be more compassionate. I want to be more empathetic. Like, and I didn't feel none of this when I was writing it. I didn't feel none of it, but let me say, I didn't experience it in my human experience. But when I imagined it, I felt it. And I wrote that down. And I believe, I knew it to be true. And I walked the day with that vibration, because I put it in, I felt it when I wrote in the portal journal. Eventually, it wasn't long before that compassion was me. That love was me. That empathy was me. And then eventually it got to, okay, now I want to do it with my job. Now I want to do it with my career. Now I want to do it with my opinion. And I'm in it right now. So portal journaling was huge to maintain for me. You know what I'm saying? My meditation was everything. You know what I mean? And I have a process I go through for that, because with meditation, it wasn't just about trying to transcend, but gratitude. Like, when I tell you gratitude was my saving grace, when I was in the worst place this past year, finding that place of gratitude made me, it turned the whole day around. It turned my whole vibration around. And I don't even feel like I'm truly achieving in life if I'm not having day-to-day gratitude. And I'm talking about sometimes gratitude cries, where I'm like, yo, man, I'm so grateful. My daughter's in the other room. I got a home. I'm like, it's just, man, you know what I mean? Like, that just sets the whole tone of the day. So I would say gratitude, meditation, portal journaling, semen retention, eating right, You know what I'm saying? Eating right, treating my body clean, you know, all of these things, man, and just showing love, finding more places to show love. These things maintain me. Like, you know, I'm not veering off at all off the path as long as I'm in those places of gratitude, as long as I'm in those places of showing love, being honest with myself. You know, I'll always show up authentic.
You said something that just stood out to me just now. You said, I'm not veering far off the path as long as I'm in those spaces of gratitude. And the reason why that hit me and hit my understanding is because I know for sure, right, that when you're in a place of where you're operating in your higher self, where you're giving gratitude and you're connecting to source, God, universe, whatever terminology people want to use, then there's a trust that happens. That regardless of what comes into your space that day, whatever it physically appears to be, good or bad, that you were meant to be there.
Yes.
I also know that when you're not in that space, of gratitude and connection and depth, that you lose a bit of the trust that where you are is where you're supposed to be. At least for me.
Yeah. And that actually is, if I'm off the path, wherever I'm at, that's where I'm supposed to be. And that's where I got to lean into. So if I'm off the path, I got to be with that for a moment. I got to sit with that. What's good? Why am I in my ego right now? Like, what's this human experience I'm having? Or why am I feeling what I like? There's all gems in there. It's in that darkness, man. The darkness is where the light is at. And we could find it. You know what I'm saying? If we sit with it. We tend to avoid, especially as men, we tend to avoid those dark places. As much as we want to talk, we tend to avoid those dark places. We're scared of the dark. You know what I mean? And we should love the shadows.
Turn the light on, cuz.
Yeah, like, where the night light at? You know? So now we scared of the dark, man, but I'm not scared of the dark, man. I stay in that. If I feel it, if I'm there and I feel that, this is beautiful. This is my human experience. But this is higher self talking, right? Even if I'm off, it's higher self that's letting me know, nah, be with this right now. Sit, be still, and sit and find that stillness in the chaos, because that's where we really find these gems about ourselves and just about life. You know what I mean? We don't have to move.
Let's jump into these 3 Ps, man, because you just dropped the mic. You just did a traditional drop the mic move.
Yeah, that's you. That's you in the clubhouse room. Dab in here, dab though. Dab, dropping the mic on dude.
All right, 3 Ps, man. I'm just gonna ask you these questions, answers as quickly as you can, whatever comes to your heart. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Answer. 3 Ps. When are you most peaceful?
Oh man, I'm most peaceful when I'm completely present. When I'm completely present and aware and connected to the now, but not attached to it, I feel so much at peace, no matter what's going on.
When do you feel most powerful?
Same. Same place. You know what it is? Because when I'm in that place, when I'm in that awareness, when I'm in that connected to now, I start to really understand again, that's my higher self. That's my soulful intention coming up. So what am I going to be not at peace for? Like, when I'm really connected to what's going on right now, why should I not be at peace? Even when this chaos might be around me, my higher self knows I'm good. I'm connected to now of what's going on. If I'm in my human experience, I'm too caught up in the fears of what could be and all the possibilities of what could happen. And I'm looking at that. But when I'm still and really in the present moment, I feel most peaceful. I feel most powerful, because I know I could control this. This is me.
When do you feel most purposeful?
I'll be bad if I say the same thing, right? No, but for real, it's the same thing. It's the same thing, because now if I'm present and I'm completely in this moment, in this now, and I know, you know, that I'm in control, then not only am I in control, but here's my purpose. It's like you said, like if I'm off the path, what's the purpose of me being off the path right now? You could only know that if you're completely present in the now. You know what I'm saying?
I feel like you can only know you off the path if you've been operating in your higher self.
No doubt.
Here's the truth too. I'll give it. Here's the truth. Somebody asked me that this morning. I told them, I said, I'm off my path right now. Like I feel it. Like I feel like I'm off. And I told them, I was like, you know, 5 or 10 years ago, I wouldn't have been able to tell you that. I would have felt completely normal. But because, you know, the Most High has allowed me to walk differently, now I can feel it. I feel a little disconnected. And,
Yeah.
you know, my friend asked me, you know, she was like, well, what are you going to do? I was like, I'm going to sit still until I get some inspiration. And while I'm sitting still in terms of what I need to do, I'm just going to serve. I'm just going to love wherever I can love and wait for some sense of guidance to get back to where I need to be.
And in
But
everything
it also means
said,
it might be something new. It might be something new that needs to enter into my spirit, into my being.
Yeah. And everything you just said was peaceful, powerful, purposeful. Even in you observing that, I'm gonna sit still. Until I wait for some inspiration. In the meantime, I'm gonna love, and that's all purposeful. That's all powerful. That's all peaceful.
Yeah, I think that might, to me, I'm not judging anybody else's 3 Ps, but I really got value from those 3 Ps because what I basically heard you say was that, like you said, your peace, purpose, and your power was all connected to your higher self. It's all connected to you
Absolutely.
being in your higher self, which is connected to your stillness, your you know, how you love, how you sit in your awareness.
Yes.
That's
Yes.
dope,
No
man.
question.
We're gonna pay it forward differently. So we're gonna get into these questions.